In this build along tutorial, we're going to be building the 9-volt battery box for our SparkBot. After you've got FreeCAD open, create a new part in the Part Design workbench. In the Tasks tab, click on Create Body, Create Sketch, and we're going to add this sketch to the XY plane. Once you're in the Sketcher workbench, begin by creating a rectangle. We're going to make this one symmetric around the origin. To do that, left click in the top left corner, left click in the bottom right corner, left click in the origin, and click on Constrain Symmetric. We're going to make the width of this rectangle 24.2 millimeters, and we're going to make the height of this rectangle 70.6 millimeters. Our sketch is fully constrained, so we can close out of the Sketcher workbench. We're going to pad this sketch out to 8.5 millimeters. And now we're going to add a pocket feature on the front end of this block. So left click on the top face of the block, click on Create Sketch, and come down to the bottom of this rectangle. We're going to use the Create External Geometry Reference tool, and we're going to bring in the bottom edge of our block that we've created. Right click to clear the tool, and go back up to the Create Rectangle tool, and we're just going to create a rectangle on the bottom of our block. I'm going to left click on the bottom left corner of the block, or of the rectangle, and the left hand side of that line segment that is the bottom of our block. And I'm going to click on Constrain Coincident, and that's going to lock the box to the bottom corner there. And I'm going to do the same thing on the right corner. So select those two vertices, Constrain Coincident, and so our new rectangle is locked to the bottom of our block. And I'm going to constrain the height of this new rectangle to 3.1 millimeters. So now that our sketch is fully constrained, we can close out of it. And we're going to pocket this to a depth of 2.6 millimeters. Now we are going to add a feature to the top of our block. So left click on the top face and create sketch. And we're going to bring in the left and right edges of our block with the Create External Geometry tool. So now that we've brought in those left and right edges, we're going to grab that Create Rectangle tool, and we're going to create a rectangle in the middle here. I'm going to lock the left edge of our new rectangle to the left edge of our block by clicking that top left vertex, clicking on that left line segment, and clicking on Constrain Coincident. I'm going to do something similar for the right hand edge of the box. And now I'm going to set the length of this box to 58 millimeters. The next thing that I need to do is I need to set the position of this box in relation to our block. And I'm going to do that here in the bottom left corner. So I'm going to click in the bottom left hand corner of our rectangle, click on the bottom end of our left line segment, and I'm going to constrain the vertical distance between these 2 points to 3.5 millimeters. So now our new sketch is fully constrained, so we can close out of the Sketcher workbench. And we're going to pad this feature out to 20.5 millimeters. Now this gives us the overall height to support a typical 9-volt battery. And so now we need to create a pocket in the center of this block that we've created. So click on the top face of the block and create a new sketch. And we're going to bring in the left hand edge of our shape at this point with the Create External Geometry Reference tool. And I'm going to create a new rectangle in the center of this block. This is going to be the pocket that will hold the 9-volt battery. I'm going to make this rectangle so that it's symmetric around the y-axis. So click the top left corner, top right corner, and then lastly click on the y-axis, and we can constrain symmetric. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to set the length of this rectangle. So we'll set it to a length of 52 millimeters. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to set the width of this. So we'll set the width of this rectangle to 18 millimeters. So now we have set the length and width of the pocket that's going to hold our 9-volt battery. The last thing that we need to do is we need to constrain it inside of this top part of the block. So I'm going to do that with respect to the top left corner here. So I'm going to click the 2 top left vertices there, and I will constrain them vertically to 3 millimeters. So our pocket shape is fully constrained at this point, so we can close out of the Sketcher workbench, and we will now pocket it to a depth of 26 millimeters. And so that will hold the 9-volt battery plus the 9-volt pigtail that will deliver power to our Arduino boards. We need to create a cutout on the top of our 9-volt battery. We're going to be pressing the HCSR04 ultrasonic sensor right against this front face here, and it's got 4 pins that come out at an angle. And so we need to clear away some of the material here so that the sensor can press right up against the front face. So we'll do that by clicking on the top face of our box here, and we'll create a new sketch. So we're going to come down to the bottom here, and we're going to use the Create External Geometry Reference tool, and we're going to bring in these 2 bottom lines here. And we're going to grab the Create Rectangle tool, and we're going to bring in a rectangle here, and left click on the top left corner of that rectangle, left click on that top line segment, and we're going to create a constrained coincident. Do the same thing for the bottom right corner and the bottom line segment. And now we've got this box locked on these 2 lines that we brought in. We're going to make this box symmetric around the y-axis. So click the top left corner, click the top right corner, click on the y-axis, and click on Constrain Symmetric. And the last thing that we need to do is we need to set the width of this rectangle, and we're going to set it to 11 millimeters. Right, so now that we've got this sketch fully constrained, we can close out of the Sketcher workbench, and we're going to pocket this shape to a depth of 3 millimeters. All right, so that will clear the pins that come off the ultrasonic sensor. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add some holes that our screws are going to attach to in order to connect our 9-volt battery to our SparkBot base platform. So we're going to come in here to this second step here and click on that top face, and we're going to create sketch here. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, but I'm still going to focus on this bottom end of the battery box here. And I'm going to create a circle, and the circle is going to be it's going to be constrained to the y-axis. So I'm going to click right on it and drag the box or the circle out. I'm going to constrain the diameter of this circle to 2.8 millimeters. That will work really nicely with our 3 millimeter screws. The 2.8 millimeters just leaves enough room for the thread clearance. And we're going to position this circle in relation to this top line here. So we're going to grab the Create External Geometry Reference tool, and we'll click on this line here. Now this line is partially hidden because the geometry at the top of our box is popping up towards us. So I'll click on the View Section box, and I'm actually going to delete this line segment because it's referencing a higher part of the box, and I'll re-reference this line. So that way we have the full line here. And so now I'm going to click on the center of this circle that I created. I'm going to click on the left end of this line segment, and I'm going to constrain its distance to 1.6 millimeters. So that'll put that circle right in the middle of this step. A little bit, it puts the circle a little bit closer to the edge of the battery box, and that's good because we want to make sure that this screw doesn't actually touch the ultrasonic sensor board. So we need to now put a circle on the top of our box, top only relative to the current view we're looking at. And we're going to create a circle. Again, we're going to have it constrained to the y-axis. Again, we're going to have it set to a diameter of 2.8 millimeters. And we're going to position it on the y-axis in relation to this top line, this top edge of our battery box. So I'll bring in that piece of geometry, and now I'll left click in the center of the circle, click on the left end of that line segment, and I'm going to vertically constrain the distance to this line to 3.5 millimeters. And now that I've done that, our sketch is fully constrained, and we can now close out of the Sketcher workbench. So we now have the two circles that will be pocketed. So we'll pocket that to a depth of 9 millimeters. And we'll just check the bottom to confirm that the holes went all the way through. And now we're going to create a couple of features on either side of our battery box. And these features are going to hold the infrared distance sensors that we'll be using to do our line following algorithm on this robot. So we're going to start on this side of the battery box. So left click on that face, and we're going to create a sketch here. And we're going to reference the top and bottom edge of our battery box. So external geometry reference, click that top edge, click that bottom edge, and you can see, right click to clear your tool, you can see the ends of our line segments there when you hover over that bottom line. We're going to be using the Create Polygon tool here. So left click on that, and we're going to start approximately here. And we're going to draw, click on that top line, and we will drag the line down to the bottom. We're going to drag a short distance along the bottom, and then we're going to come up at an angle back towards the top. Hover over that top line, wait for it to change color, and we're going to end our line segment back where we began. So left click on that. The tool is no longer trying to continue the line segment, and you have to right click twice in order to clear the tool. So now we're going to constrain our shape. We're going to click on that top line here, and we're going to constrain its horizontal distance to 8 millimeters. We're going to constrain its bottom distance to 1.5 millimeters. And we're going to constrain, we need to make sure that this is vertically constrained. So as long as you see that vertical constraint symbol there, we're fine. This is vertically constrained. If you don't see it, you'll have to click on it and click on that tool there. Now we're going to constrain this shape that we've created so that it is 10 millimeters away from the end of our block. So left click on the top left corner, left click on the left end of that line segment, and we will constrain the horizontal distance to 10 millimeters. So as you can see, our shape is fully constrained, so we can close out of the Sketcher workbench. And we're going to pad this shape out to 14 millimeters. And once we've got that, we're going to repeat the process on the other side of our 9-volt battery box. So rotate around, left click on the face, create sketch, and now we're going to reference the top and bottom edges. And you got to be careful while you're doing this. You want to make sure that you draw this next shape so that you start with your vertical line there and go out from it towards the left end of the screen. Come back down to your bottom line and terminate your line back where you started. Right click twice to clear the tool, and same thing. Click on that top edge and set the length to 8 millimeters. Click the bottom edge and set it to 1.5 millimeters. And we're going to set the distance between the edge of that shape, the top right edge of the shape, and the right-hand edge of that line segment we will once again set that to 10 millimeters. So our shape is now fully constrained, so we can close it, and we will once again pad that out to 14 millimeters. So these wings, if you will, on the edge of our battery box will support the infrared distance sensors that we're going to be attaching to our SparkBot. We need to create 2 mounting holes through these side wings. So left click on one of the faces and click on Create Sketch. And we're going to remove this part of the geometry that's poking out towards us. So we're going to click on View Section. And we're going to now reference this single edge here. We're going to create 2 circles. And we're going to make those circles just inside those wings that we created. We're going to left click on the inside of both circles, and we're going to constrain them to the same horizontal plane. So when I move one, the other one moves. And we're also going to constrain them symmetrically around the y-axis. So left click in the first, left click in the center, left click on the y-axis, and constrain symmetric. And so now they move in and out and up and down together. We're going to set the diameters of both circles by clicking on their circle shapes and setting constrain equals, so they're the same now. And we will constrain their diameter to 2.8 millimeters. Next, we need to constrain the distance of this circle with respect to the top of that line segment. So left click in the center of the circle and left click the top of that line segment. We'll begin by constraining the horizontal distance. The horizontal distance will be set to 7.2 millimeters. And we're now going to constrain the distance from the top. So we'll constrain its vertical distance to 7 millimeters. So now that our circles are fully constrained, we can close out of the Sketcher workbench, and we're going to pocket these circles to a depth of 7 millimeters. And you can just rotate to the back to confirm that that pocket went all the way through. So now we can mount our infrared distance sensors there. We're going to add a cosmetic touch to the back of these wings that we just created. We're going to fillet them. So left click on that back edge there, hold down Control on your keyboard, left click on that second edge, and click the fillet tool. And we're going to give this a 3 millimeter fillet. So just a little cosmetic touch there. And now we're going to create a feature that is going to attach again to the side here, but we are going to do it differently than we did with these wings here. So I'm going to rotate this around. So I'm looking at the front view, and I'm just going to use the cube in the top right corner. I'm going to click on the front face there. Now this new feature that we're creating is going to be constrained to the XZ plane to start with. And the XZ plane crosses through the middle of our battery box the way we've designed it here. So I'm just going to make sure that I've clicked on body up here in the model panel. And now I'm going to click on Create Sketch. And the XZ plane, because I've clicked on the front face of our navigation cube, is going to be presented as the plane. But we can also just click on the XZ plane here and then click OK. And this shape that we're going to create is going to end up in the middle of our box here. So we're going to click on View Section right now to clear away the wings that we just created. And we're going to reference this right-hand edge of our battery box. So create external geometry, click that right-hand edge, right-click to clear your tool. And again, we're going to use that Create Poly tool. And I'm going to come up to the top of that line segment and click on it to lock the polyline to that. I'm going to come out a ways, left click to create my first line segment, come down a ways at an angle, and when I'm hovered over top of that line, it will turn color. So I'm going to left click there, and I'm going to come back up to my starting place and left click on that vertex. Right click to clear my tool. And now I'm going to constrain the shape that I've created. So I'm going to constrain the top edge of this to 5 millimeters. And I'm going to constrain the vertical length of this to 15 millimeters. And so the sketch is fully constrained now, but we still need to move it because it's not exactly in the right spot. So when we go in and look at it and we rotate our view, we can see that shape that we created right here. But we need to actually move this triangle a little bit. And so to do that, we make sure that we're looking at the Model tab, right-click on Sketch, and go up to Attachment Editor. And inside the Attachment Editor, we can actually move the location of our sketch on the Z-axis. And so we're actually going to change its Z position to 2.45 millimeters. And when we do that, our triangle will move to the left on our shape. So this is where we want it to be. So we're going to click OK. And now we're going to pad this shape out. And we're going to pad it out 8 millimeters, but we want our pad to be symmetric to the plane. So make sure that you click on the box that says symmetric to the plane. And all that does is it just pads out 4 millimeters on either side of that shape. So that's where we want that feature. Click OK. And now we're going to add a hole on the top of this new feature that we just created. So left click on that top face, click on Create Sketch, and we're going to zoom into that feature we created. I'm going to reference this right-hand edge here. So create external geometry tool, click on that right edge, right-click to clear my tool, and now I'm going to create a circle in the middle of it. And as with all the rest of the circles, I'm going to set the diameter of this tool to 2.8 millimeters. And I'm going to center this circle inside this 8 millimeter long and 8 millimeter wide feature that I've created here. So it's a little bit wider than 8 millimeters, but left click in the center of the circle, left click on the top of that line segment, and we're going to constrain its horizontal distance to 4 millimeters. And we're going to constrain its vertical distance to 4 millimeters as well. Okay, so now that we've got that done, our shape is fully constrained and we can close out of this. And we're going to pocket this through. So we're going to give it a pocket and set the depth of the pocket to 11 millimeters. And we can see that that pocket just poked out the bottom there. And we're going to give our feature here, this is a mount for the pad that will hold our 6-axis inertial measurement units. That's a combination of accelerometer and gyroscope. So we're going to click the left-hand edge there, hold down the control key on our keyboard, left click on the right edge, and we're going to fillet this. And we're going to give this a fillet of 2.5 millimeters. And now we're going to create a little step, a little feature here on the other side of our battery box. So once again, click on that top face and click on Create Sketch. And we're going to reference the left and right edges of this side of our battery box. So create external geometry reference tool and bring those in. And I'm going to click the Create Rectangle tool, and I'm going to click right on that left-hand vertex there, drag my box out. You can see how my box is snapping to that other edge there. Left click, and I'm going to set the length of this box to 8 millimeters. And so now this box is fully constrained, so I can close out of the Sketcher workbench. And I'm going to pad this out to 4 millimeters. So that creates that little block over there. And I'm going to click on this left-hand edge here, and I'm going to chamfer it. And I'm going to chamfer it down to 3.9 millimeters. And if you go all the way to 4 millimeters, it causes an error to occur. I suppose you could chamfer it down to 3.999 millimeters, but 3.9 millimeters gets it down there. And this little block will make it so that the pad that holds the gyro can't rotate past the 90-degree mark. All right, so there we are. We've got our battery box, our 9-volt battery box complete. And so now we can print this out and add it to our SparkBot.